Divine alert. Your soulmate is contacting you right now. My beloved child, don't skip. Listen carefully, because this is a fictional story about hope, courage, and two hearts learning to speak honestly. Stay till the end because what happened next changed everything. There are moments in life that seem completely ordinary on the surface, yet beneath them, emotions are quietly reaching a turning point. Somewhere, someone has been carrying words they have never been able to say out loud. Every day they told themselves, tomorrow will be the right time. But tomorrow kept becoming another tomorrow. Until now. Something inside them has shifted, and the silence that once protected them has become heavier than the truth they have been hiding. For a long time, your soulmate believed that keeping their feelings locked away would make life easier. They convinced themselves that distance would erase memories and that time would silence their heart. They stayed busy with work, responsibilities, and endless distractions, hoping that if they filled every hour of the day, there would be no room left for thoughts of you. But the human heart rarely follows the plans of the mind. In quiet moments, when the world became still, your memory returned with surprising clarity. It wasn't just a face they remembered. It was the peace they felt around you, the kindness you showed without expecting anything in return, and the quiet strength that inspired them long after you were apart. Don't skip. This changes everything. One evening, after another exhausting day, they sat alone in a room filled with silence. Their phone rested on the table beside them, untouched. They stared at it for several minutes, wondering how one small device could suddenly feel so important. They picked it up, unlocked the screen, typed a few words, and then erased them. They tried again, only to delete everything once more. It wasn't because they didn't know what to say. It was because they cared deeply about saying the right thing. They had finally realized that honest conversations deserve thoughtful words, not rushed emotions. Listen carefully because something huge is waiting for you. As they looked through old conversations, they noticed something they had overlooked before. It wasn't the dramatic moments that stayed with them. It was the simple ones. A kind message after a difficult day. A shared joke that made both of you laugh. A thoughtful question that showed genuine care. Those ordinary memories carried extraordinary meaning because they reminded them of something they had been searching for ever since: authenticity. They understood that genuine connection isn't built through grand gestures alone. It grows through countless small moments of kindness and consistency. The more they reflected, the clearer everything became. They remembered how you listened without interrupting, encouraged without controlling, and remained honest even when honesty was uncomfortable. Those qualities had quietly shaped the way they now viewed every relationship in their life. They realized they had been comparing everyone they met to the example you had unknowingly set. It wasn't because you were perfect. It was because you were real. And real people leave lasting impressions that cannot be replaced by appearances alone. Stay till the end because what happened next changed everything. They finally stopped asking themselves whether reaching out would guarantee a particular outcome. Instead, they asked a far more meaningful question: if I stay silent forever, will I always wonder what might have happened if I had simply been honest? The answer came immediately. They knew they didn't want to spend the rest of their life carrying words that deserved to be spoken. In that moment, fear began losing its power. Courage quietly took its place. Don't skip because this changes everything. They opened a blank message once again. This time they didn't search for perfect sentences. They chose sincere ones. They expressed gratitude for the memories you shared, accepted responsibility for the moments they wished they had handled differently, and wished you genuine happiness regardless of what the future might hold. Every word reflected growth instead of pride. Every sentence carried humility instead of excuses. When they finished writing, they paused for one final deep breath. Then, with a calm heart, they pressed send. Meanwhile, your own journey had been quietly transforming you as well. You had learned that your worth was never determined by someone else's timing. You had discovered peace in your own company, built confidence through life's challenges, and grown into someone who valued honesty above uncertainty. Whether a message arrived today, tomorrow, or never at all, you had already become stronger than the version of yourself who once depended on unanswered questions for happiness. That quiet growth became one of your greatest victories. Listen carefully because this is the heart of the story. Sometimes the most important message isn't the one that appears on a phone screen. It's the message people finally accept within themselves, that love grows best where there is honesty, respect, patience, and mutual care. Real connection doesn't demand perfection. It asks for courage. It asks for humility. It asks two people to stop hiding behind fear and start speaking with open hearts. As the night came to an end, two hearts rested a little easier than they had the day before. One had finally found the courage to speak. The other had already found the strength to stand confidently, whatever tomorrow might bring. And that is where hope quietly begins, not in certainty about the future, but in the decision to live truthfully today. My beloved child, don't skip because the next chapter will reveal what happens after that heartfelt message is received. The response, the emotions it awakens, and the conversation that follows will show that the greatest turning points in life often begin with one simple act of honesty, proving that sometimes the smallest message can open the door to the biggest transformation. The message that changed everything. My beloved child, don't skip. Listen carefully, because this chapter begins at the exact moment your soulmate could no longer silence what their heart had been trying to say. Stay till the end because what happened next changed everything. For days they had stared at your name on their phone, opening the conversation and closing it again without typing a single word. Every time they gathered enough courage, fear whispered that it was too late. Every time fear convinced them to walk away, another memory reminded them why they couldn't. The battle between their heart and their mind had become impossible to ignore, and for the first time, their heart was beginning to win. That evening, the world outside was unusually quiet. The sun slowly disappeared beneath the horizon, and the first stars began to appear in the night sky. Your soulmate sat alone near the window, thinking about every chapter that had led them to this moment. They remembered the kindness you showed when no one else was watching. They remembered how you believed in people even after disappointment. Most of all, they remembered how safe they felt whenever they could simply be themselves around you. Those memories no longer felt like distant echoes of the past. They felt alive, as though they were inviting them to stop running and finally face the truth. Listen carefully. This changes everything. They picked up their phone once again, but this time something felt different. Their hands were still shaking, yet their heart felt calm. They realized they weren't writing because they expected everything to return to the way it once was. They were writing because honesty had become more important than fear. Every sentence they typed reflected the growth that had quietly taken place during the months apart. They didn't try to rewrite history. They didn't search for excuses. They simply spoke from the heart, admitting that seeing the real you had changed the way they looked at love, trust, and even themselves. Don't skip because something huge is waiting for you. Just before pressing send, they paused and whispered softly, "Whatever happens next, I don't want my life to be remembered by the words I was too afraid to say." That single thought gave them the courage they had been searching for all along. With one deep breath, they sent the message. The screen went still, but inside their heart, everything had changed. The silence that once felt heavy was now replaced by unexpected peace because the truth was finally free. Meanwhile, your own evening unfolded quietly. You had spent so much time healing that you no longer expected life to surprise you. You had learned to enjoy the simple moments, a peaceful walk, a conversation with someone you cared about, the comfort of knowing your happiness no longer depended on unanswered questions. The version of you that once waited anxiously for someone else's decision had slowly disappeared. In its place stood someone stronger, calmer, and more confident than ever before. That quiet transformation had become one of the greatest victories of your journey. Stay till the end because what happened next changed everything. As you reached for your phone later that night, you noticed a new notification waiting for you. You didn't rush to open it. Instead, you took a slow breath, smiled gently, and reminded yourself that whatever those words contained, your peace would remain intact. That simple decision showed how much you had grown. Healing had taught you that every conversation deserves wisdom, not panic. Every new beginning deserves patience, not pressure. Listen carefully because this changes everything. Across the distance, your soulmate waited without expectations. They understood that trust takes time to rebuild and that genuine care cannot be demanded. For the first time, they weren't hoping for the perfect response. They were simply grateful they had finally chosen truth. They realized that courage isn't measured by whether someone immediately answers. Courage is measured by the willingness to speak honestly, even when the outcome remains uncertain. As the night grew deeper, both of you looked up at the same sky without knowing it. Miles apart, two hearts had arrived at the same realization. Life had changed both of you in beautiful ways. One heart had learned how to speak honestly. The other had learned how to wait peacefully. Those lessons, though different, had prepared both of you for whatever tomorrow might bring. Sometimes the greatest miracle isn't that two people find each other again. It's that they become the people they needed to be before the next chapter could begin. My beloved child, don't skip because the next chapter will reveal what happens when that heartfelt message is finally opened. The emotions, the memories, and the unexpected words that follow will create a turning point neither heart ever imagined, proving that sometimes one sincere message has the power to begin an entirely new story. When the message was finally opened. My beloved child, don't skip. Listen carefully, because this chapter begins with a single notification that neither heart was prepared for. Stay till the end because what happened next changed everything. The message remained unopened for what felt like an eternity. Every passing minute tested your soulmate's patience. They reminded themselves that healing cannot be rushed and that every heart deserves the freedom to respond in its own time. Even though uncertainty surrounded them, something inside whispered that telling the truth had already changed their life. Whatever happened next, they had finally become someone who chose honesty over fear. Late that evening, you picked up your phone once again. The room was quiet, and the outside world had grown still. As your eyes rested on the notification, you paused for a moment before opening it. You weren't afraid anymore. The months behind you had taught you lessons that no one could ever take away. You had learned that your peace did not depend on another person's choices. With a calm heart, you slowly opened the message and began reading every word. Listen carefully. This changes everything. The first sentence immediately caught your attention. There were no dramatic promises. No attempts to erase the past. No excuses hidden between carefully chosen words. Instead, you found honesty. You found accountability. You found gratitude. Every sentence reflected someone who had spent countless nights confronting their own mistakes instead of pretending they never happened. As you continued reading, you realized these weren't simply words written in a moment of emotion. They were the result of genuine growth. Don't skip because something huge is waiting for you. One particular sentence stayed with you longer than all the others. It read, "Meeting you changed the way I understand love, and losing your presence taught me never to take genuine kindness for granted again." You quietly closed your eyes after reading those words. They didn't erase every difficult memory, but they helped you see something important. Growth is possible. People can change when they are willing to face themselves honestly. That realization filled your heart with quiet hope rather than uncertainty. Across the distance, your soulmate continued waiting without checking their phone every few seconds. They had promised themselves they would respect your space, no matter how difficult the waiting became. Instead of focusing on whether you would respond, they reflected on how much they had changed throughout the journey. They understood that courage isn't rewarded simply because life unfolds exactly as we hope. Courage matters because it allows us to live without carrying the weight of unspoken truth. Stay till the end because what happened next changed everything. After reading the message more than once, you didn't answer immediately. Instead, you placed your phone beside you and went for a quiet walk beneath the evening sky. The gentle breeze reminded you how far you had come. There was a time when a single message would have completely controlled your emotions. But now your heart was different. You had learned to respond with wisdom instead of impulse. Every step you took reminded you that healing had made you stronger, not harder. Listen carefully because this changes everything. As you walked, memories returned, not only the painful ones but also the beautiful ones. You remembered moments filled with laughter, encouragement, and simple conversations that once made ordinary days feel extraordinary. For the first time, those memories no longer carried bitterness. They carried gratitude. They reminded you that every chapter, whether joyful or difficult, had shaped the person you had become. Without those experiences, you would never have discovered the quiet confidence that now lived inside you. Meanwhile, your soulmate stood outside beneath the stars, unaware that you had already read every word. Instead of worrying, they whispered a simple prayer of gratitude. They were thankful for the courage to finally tell the truth. They were thankful for the lessons that had transformed their heart. Most of all, they were thankful that knowing you had taught them how to become a kinder, more honest, and more compassionate person. They finally understood that genuine love is measured not only by what we receive, but by who we become because of it. My beloved child, don't skip because the next chapter will reveal the moment your fingers finally begin typing a response. Every word you choose will carry wisdom earned through healing, and every sentence will bring two hearts closer to a conversation they once believed could never happen. The silence is no longer empty. It has become the space where understanding is about to grow, proving that sometimes the most powerful new beginnings start with one honest message and one courageous reply. The love that chose truth ****. My beloved child, don't skip. Listen carefully, because this is the final chapter of a fictional story about two hearts that found their way back to honesty. Stay till the end because what happened next changed everything. The long season of silence had finally reached its purpose. Every unanswered question, every late-night memory, every difficult lesson, and every quiet moment of healing had prepared both of you for this day. Looking back, neither of you wished to erase the past anymore. Instead, you understood that every challenge had shaped you into stronger, wiser, and more compassionate people. As the first light of morning filled the sky, you picked up your phone one final time. There was no fear in your heart and no pressure to rush. You had learned that the strongest decisions are made with peace, not panic. After taking a deep breath, you began typing your reply. Every word was honest. Every sentence reflected kindness, wisdom, and self-respect. You thanked them for their sincerity, acknowledged the growth they had shared, and spoke openly about everything you had learned during your own journey. There was no blame, only truth. No anger, only understanding. Listen carefully. This changes everything. When your soulmate received your message, they didn't open it immediately. They paused for a moment, closed their eyes, and quietly whispered, "Whatever these words say, I'm grateful I finally chose honesty." That simple thought reminded them how much they had changed. They were no longer seeking control over the future. They simply wanted to honor the truth with humility and respect. When they finally read your response, tears filled their eyes, not because every problem had disappeared, but because they felt understood in a way they hadn't expected. The conversation that followed wasn't filled with dramatic promises or impossible expectations. Instead, it was calm, thoughtful, and genuine. You spoke about the memories that still made you smile, the mistakes that had taught valuable lessons, and the growth that had quietly transformed both of your lives. For the first time in a very long while, neither of you felt the need to defend yourselves. You simply listened. You understood. You respected one another's experiences. That honesty became the strongest bridge either of you had ever built. Don't skip because something huge is waiting for you. As the weeks passed, trust wasn't rebuilt through grand gestures. It grew through consistency. A thoughtful message. A kind conversation. A sincere apology when needed. A promise kept without being reminded. Day by day, you discovered that real love isn't measured by one extraordinary moment. It is built through countless ordinary moments where two people choose patience, kindness, and respect again and again. Meanwhile, both of you continued growing as individuals. Your soulmate became someone who no longer hid behind fear or pride. You became someone who protected your peace without closing your heart. The journey had taught you that genuine love should never ask you to lose yourself. Instead, it should encourage both people to become the very best versions of who they already are. That realization became the greatest gift either of you could have received. Stay till the end because what happened next changed everything. One peaceful evening, as the sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon, both of you found yourselves laughing together about memories that had once brought tears. The past no longer felt like a burden. It had become a reminder of how far you had come. Every challenge had strengthened your patience. Every difficult conversation had deepened your understanding. Every season of waiting had prepared your hearts to appreciate the quiet beauty of simply being present with one another. Listen carefully because this is the message this story has been leading toward from the very beginning. Love is not about perfection. It is not about never making mistakes or never facing difficult seasons. Real love is choosing honesty when fear feels easier. It is choosing forgiveness without forgetting the lessons. It is choosing respect even during disagreement. It is choosing growth every single day. When two hearts are willing to make those choices, something truly beautiful can begin. As the stars appeared one by one in the night sky, your soulmate smiled and softly said, "The greatest miracle was never finding someone to love. The greatest miracle was becoming someone capable of loving well." You smiled too, knowing your own journey had taught you the same truth. Neither of you was the same person you had been at the beginning of this story. And that was exactly why this new chapter felt so meaningful. My beloved child, thank you for staying until the very end. Remember this: wherever your own journey leads, the strongest relationships are built on honesty, mutual respect, patience, and compassion. Every challenge can become a lesson, every ending can become a new beginning, and every act of genuine kindness leaves a lasting mark on the heart. As this story gently comes to a close, two hearts walk forward with gratitude instead of regret, hope instead of fear, and the quiet confidence that truth will always be stronger than silence. And with that, a beautiful new chapter begins, not because life became perfect, but because both hearts finally chose to live with courage, wisdom, and love.